Good evening. Welcome to the House Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. To start things off, we are going to be voting on a bill. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to take a roll call. There's a lot of things we're supposed to do. Lou, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
We'll take a roll call.
Chairman Bennett.
Here.
First Vice Chair Phillips.
Present.
Second Vice Chair O'Brien.
In the back room. He's here.
Representative Carson. Here. Representative Cortravin.
Here.
Representative Fenton Fung.
Here.
Chairwoman Fogarty.
Here.
Chairman Handy. Here. Representative Knight. Here. Representative Mazakowski. Representative McEntee. Okay. Representative McLaughlin.
Present.
Representative Morgan. Yep, I see you. Representative Ranglin Vassal. And Representative Speakman, and Chairman, yes, there is a quorum.
Thank you. I'm going to tune in my hearing aids here. Tonight we're going to be voting on a bill, 5445. We are going to hold 5445. And do I hear a motion for sub A?
Motion to hold House Bill H5445 indefinitely and postpone it and substitute it with H5445 substitute A.
Don't know what I do with those.
Second.
Great. We'll hold that one. And the bill we're going to hear is 5445 sub A.
We need to take a roll call again.
That's a roll call vote?
Yep.
Roll call
Everything's a
vote?
roll call vote. To postpone,
Aye.
we have to...
Chairman Bennett.
Aye.
First Vice Chair Phillips.
hear you, I'm sorry.
Second Vice Chair
Yes.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Representative Carson. Representative Cortravin.
Not this one.
Representative Fenton
Aye.
Fung.
Aye.
The
Representative
other ones,
Fogarty.
yes.
Representative Handy. Representative Knight.
Aye.
Representative Mazakowski. Representative McEntee.
Aye.
Representative McLaughlin.
Present.
Representative Morgan.
Present.
Aye.
Representative Ranglin Vassal. Representative Speakman.
Aye.
Chairman, the motion passes 14-0.
Thank you. The bill we're going to be hearing in its place is 5445 sub A by Representative Carson. Representative Carson, you want to make a comment?
I'm going to yield to legal counsel and let them explain the bill.
Okay. You want to explain the
If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of the committee. The bill before the committee tonight has been amended to match the Senate bill, which was passed in the Senate this past Tuesday, March 16th. All of the amendments before you are a result of negotiations and conversations that have happened between all interested parties, including DEM and other environmental groups. To go through some of them, the amendments are: it adds the Secretary of the EOHHS to the Executive Council, the Executive Climate Change Coordinating Council that this bill has created. What this does is it captures the input of several agencies under the umbrella, making the process more transparent as it relates to children's health and other safety issues. Some of those state agencies being DCYF, the Department of Health, the Department of Human Services, and BHDDH. Another change is it updates the target dates. Although the target dates are every 10 years, the sub-A adds interim target dates every 5 years for an interim plan that has to be submitted, the first being December 31st, 2022, that will focus upon the state's greenhouse gas emission plans. This provides for public input at every stage and creates advisory groups for transparency. There's also an additional report due in 2025 as a plan. This creates multiple layers of agency review and subject to multiple agencies through public hearing processes that will create rules and regulations at those stages. This ensures against onerous requirements on companies and individuals when they'll have the opportunity to speak and provide input when those rules will be created. Additionally, it makes significant changes to the enforcement provisions. These changes make the provisions more closely resemble those that exist in federal citizen suit provisions. All provisions of the plan are subject to enforcement provisions, including the equity language and the plans that are to be created and submitted. No lawsuits can be filed under the mandates until 2031. However, there is a lawsuit that could be filed in 2026 if the interim plan is not created. In these provisions, it is a 60-day notice provision. So prior to anybody filing a lawsuit against the state, they have to provide the state 60 days notice before filing. That allows the state to be able to react and to take steps to remediate the allegations that would be in the lawsuit. This allows the state the opportunity to take remedial action, and if the state does take substantive action, there's no costs or fees that can be awarded. That further discourages suits because we're aware that people are worried about frivolous suits. So that's what helps to discourage frivolous suits. And the sub-A makes the venue the superior court level for people, so it's very clear where these suits will be filed. Specifically, those people who have standing to file suit would include the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, any Rhode Island resident, and any Rhode Island corporation, company, organization, nonprofit, or other Rhode Island legal entity or organization registered with the Rhode Island Secretary of State. And we want to make clear that the intent and the language also of this bill doesn't give a citizen the ability to sue a corporation individually. This is a state mandate. These are state programs, state agencies. They would have to sue the state. When the state creates the rules for the mandates, the state could violate a business, but that's the same thing that already exists today. This is an existing law that is being updated. And that's the purpose of this act. And I would also just add again, the granting of attorney's fees is not mandatory, but is in the court's discretion. And it goes back to the 60-day notice where there is substantive action taken by the state, no costs or fees can be awarded.
Thank you, Attorney Brandon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Everybody understand that? I want to recognize Alec Monzikowski he's on virtual, I believe.
We can't
Sorry
hear
about
you. Chairman, I can hear you. We cannot hear
I
you.
want to recognize Alex Mazakowski. He's on virtual. We're going to be voting on the 2021 Act on Climate. And we'll take a verbal vote. Aye.
I'm sorry, Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment.
Oh, who's talking?
Patricia
Pat Morgan?
Morgan.
Oh, go ahead, Representative Morgan. I didn't look at the screen. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'd like to offer the amendment that we remove Section 3, which allows the state to be sued.
I'll have to check with the attorney on that.
Mr. Chairman, I've been told that she has to have filed an amendment 24 hours beforehand. That amendment can't be filed at this stage right now.
I didn't have access to Sub-A. I hope everybody understands what this is going to cost your residents. First of all, ISO has not finished their study. It won't be finished until the end of the year. So we do not know how it will affect your constituents' electric bills at this point. Obviously, they're going to go up. But it will cost between $50,000 and $100,000 per homeowner, per house in Rhode Island to make these changes. And that is because the transmission lines will have to be beefed up. Everybody who has a gas furnace now or a furnace will have to get them. There's going to have to be huge changes to their houses to put in electric heat. I mean, this is an enormously expensive and damaging bill. And if people don't meet those targets, the state will be sued. I mean, it's wonderful to have these goals, but to make them mandatory, and we must understand that once you allow somebody to sue the state, it becomes mandatory. It becomes mandatory that all of your constituents who over the last 10 years took their old oil furnaces out of their house and put gas furnaces in, they will have to now get rid of those gas furnaces and put electric heat in. And electric heat is very expensive, especially up here in the Northeast. So I don't think as a committee we've even done all of the study. I know we haven't because ISO has not even finished their report yet. Their report is not going to be finished until the end of the year. And yet we're making these this mandatory law that will cost everyone in Rhode Island between $50,000 and $100,000 just to put electric heat in their houses.
Correct.
And we do not know, because ISO hasn't finished the report, what the effect on their electric bill will be. So it's wonderful to set the goal. I think it's important to set the goal. But to make it mandatory with Section 3, that should be removed.
Representative, we've got a question by the attorney. Attorney Brennan, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can just clarify, you don't have to have access to a sub-A to offer your own amendment. The amendment can be offered, and then they would add it into a sub-A or consider. And additionally, the representative has an opportunity at the House floor to offer a floor amendment when the vote goes up. But I also just want to add that we have heard some concerns about furnaces and people's home heating systems. This bill doesn't change anything that the existing bill already has, and it also does not require any homeowner to change their furnace or their heating systems in any way. Additionally, I just add that heating systems eventually expire. People have to replace them on their own. And what this would do is as the state agencies create rules around this, that's when they take those concerns into consideration. This allows them the broad latitude. That's why the public input and the public transparency is so important in this piece of legislation, because that's the stage where it'll be considered. And eventually, when homeowners' furnaces and things die anyways because they don't live forever, what the hope is that the industry is moving forward and the only options available are to buy the more high-efficiency ones, which is currently what's happening now. I had to replace mine 3 years ago, and National Grid provided me with an incentive, and that's how homeowners would take advantage of it.
Yes, but this will require electric heat. If you have gas now, you can't have gas in the future. And yes, individual homeowners can't be sued, but the state can be sued and will be sued. I mean, this is enormously expensive for the average constituent.
Okay, thank you, Representative. A question from
And on top of
Representative
that, you
Handy.
haven't even figured out what it's going to do to our electric bills.
Let's not
You know,
argue.
Rhode Island right now has the second lowest.
Point of order,
carbon
Mr. Chairman.
country.
Point of order. Are we in debate? Are we in questioning? Are we in presentation by counsel? I don't know where we are. I would ask that we define where we are, and then we go in order and we
We're
take
making
turns.
comments on the bill. Representative Morgan's made her comment. Representative Handy will be next, then you, then Representative Carson. Go right ahead,
Sure.
Representative.
So I just wanted, for everyone's, the public's purposes and things like that, I just would point out there's not any specific strategy spelled out in this bill. That's part of the process within this bill. There's no requirement for electrification of anything. That is a likely path for certain things like cars and things. I would remind people too, there's a reason why there's a lot of electric heat out there is because electric heat was cheap at one point in time and natural gas currently is cheap. There's no way to tell what it's going to be like in 30 years anyway, but I would say with the advent of additional renewable energy options, whether it's solar or wind or other things, renewable electric options are going to be, there's going to be a lot more green electric and down the road cheaper electric too. And in fact, actually, I have solar in my house and I haven't had a National Grid bill I've had to pay in over a year and a half. So, and so if I had electric heat, I'd be able to utilize that for that as well. But so my point just is that while that might be a strategy down the road that is pursued by the group in here, it's still going to be something that's going to be commented on, as the attorney was saying, and it still might not wind up being the strategy that among the strategies that are picked to reach the goals within this bill. There's absolutely, fundamentally, no obligation to do what I challenge anybody to find anywhere in the bill that it says anything about electrification of heat. I don't see anything in here. I looked quickly again, but I certainly didn't see anything myself. And Rep. Carson and I were discussing it, couldn't think of anything like that either. So I would urge everyone to support the bill. I think it's a great piece of legislation. It, again, takes its time to get to where we need to be. I'd like to have had already been here 10 years ago, but we're not. So let's get here, in the next 5 to 10 and 20 and 30 years down the road instead.
Thank you, Representative Handy. Representative Knight, do you have a question for the committee?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman, because Rep. Handy made my point so eloquently.
Thank you. Representative Carson?
Thank you, Chairman. I want to make a few comments and respond to the Representative Morgan. First of all, I really don't want to scare our constituents because there's absolutely nothing in this bill that mandates that anyone make any renovations to their houses. It just is not in here. This bill is about a plan. That's what it is. It's a plan to reduce and eliminate carbon. And we have a 30-year window to get there. It's not tomorrow. It's not in 10 years. It's in 30 years. In fact, as I was thinking about it this morning, I don't even think I'm going to be here in 30 years. I'll be 97. And I thought, geez, I won't even see this thing come to fruition. So it's that long away that it's probably going to be after I even pass away. The second thing is, it's not going to cost $50,000 to make these renovations to houses should any homeowner decide that they want to do that. I just put heat pumps in, didn't cost anywhere near $50,000. So I want to make that clear. There was an article in the paper today that you may have seen about the PPL Corporation purchasing National Grid, which was really big news. But there was a direct quote that they made, and they said that we believe in our experience in automating electricity networks, we can help the state achieve its target of 100% renewable by 2030. This is coming from the electric company. This is coming from corporate America. So I've been telling people for a while that corporate America is moving along. We're going to have all electric cars in 15 years. We're going to have all electric buses. We're going to have electric trains. Everything is changing. Corporate America is out there making investments in reducing carbon. And I really want to see Rhode Island get on that train. Because if we're left out of this in 10 years, we're going to miss the opportunity for this industry to come into the state. We're going to miss the opportunity of the jobs coming into this state. Again, we have 30 years to get there. The last thing I want to do is I want to address the issue of citizen suits. It's very traditional to have citizen suits in environmental laws. Going back 50 years to the monumental passage of the Clean Water Act, there are citizen suits in the Clean Water Act. And people haven't gone crazy suing people. You know, it hasn't been a chaotic world where people were bringing lawsuits all over the place. There are specific ways to bring lawsuits. As laid out in the bill, it gives the state the opportunity to respond. They have to notify 60 days in advance. There's no incentive for frivolous lawsuits because folks aren't going to be getting attorney's fees. It's just really creating citizen suits, which are the tradition of environmental laws. Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, 50 years ago when we were all young. So, again, this is a plan. That's what it is. It's a plan with targets and the opportunity for the public to comment on the plan as we go along. And if the plan needs to be adjusted, we will adjust the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Carson. Representative McLaughlin, you have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In reference to the plan, I had a call today from, believe it or not, a former person who was represented, our cities and towns. This study hasn't even been completed on climate change, okay?
It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, he brought that to my attention. Now, we're putting forth a bill, okay, basically, it's 30 years, and I guess nobody's against climate change, but I can look back to 2011, 2012, when we had the wind turbines off of Block Island, all right? And basically, all I had to do was look. I think we actually were paying, you were, Chairman, 12, 13 cents per kilowatt hour, okay, in reference to, we buy, our electric from Canada coming down, as opposed to the wind turbines they wanted to put on Block Island, which were 200 at the time. Okay, I think we've got 6 out there now, if I'm not mistaken. But the cost back then, okay, was something like 27 cents per kilowatt hour. All right, so I think we're jumping a gun here. All right, and
you can
people can
reflect that,
heckle
Representative, in your vote.
I have my opinion, and people want to chuckle and that. Do what you want, but I'm telling you right now, I have a place down the Cape. I just switched over to gas.
Yeah.
All right, from oil, and basically, we actually left. One of the rooms is heated with electric, and my gas bill for 3 months set at
Okay, Representative, in conclusion, please.
55. Okay, was probably $106 for 1 month, basically, because myself, I failed to turn the electric. One room is with electric, $200 and some odd dollars. Comcast. So I'm skeptical. With that, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. So I've been inundated today with so many different viewpoints on this bill, and I think the sub A is it's a good step forward. Okay, this is an imperfect bill. We know that. But it is a good starting point. And at some point, the first step is always the hardest one to take. Okay, you got to get out of the block. Sailing through, you can adjust the sales as go. As Representative Carson says, this can be adjusted over time. I think the sub A gives us more input from different agencies that I thought were important to add. And I think that when we're talking about clean air and clear water, this is not a partisan issue in any way, shape, or form. I look forward to helping with that plan over the next few years. I'm a big fan of hydro. I hope that comes into the picture as well. But I think we can all work together on the short-term goals and making it very pragmatic. My only concern is that this might put some unfunded mandates when I'm reading through the lines on cities and towns. I do like that Chairman Vella Wilkinson will be presenting a bill later to kind of help address that, and that's coming up. We always have to remember that whatever we're doing here and ideologically, and it's wonderful, we have to understand the impact on the city and town and their taxpayers, and I just think we need to keep that in perspective as these plans come forward. Okay, but I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I think we're all set now.
Chairman?
Representative Morgan, you've commented already. This isn't a debate.
I'm sorry.
You can
Representative
reflect that in
Carson
your vote.
actually mentioned my name, so I have a right to respond.
Say that again. I mentioned your name, so you have a right to
Mentioned my
respond.
name, and so I have a right to respond.
All right, go right ahead, but I'm going to limit you to 1 minute.
All right, first of all, this is a plan, but Section 3 makes it mandatory. It's not just hypothetical. With the right to sue in there, it makes it mandatory. Secondly, she said that switching to electric would not cost $50,000. The state's own consultant said it would.
No.
$50,000 and $100,000 per home, per unit. So our own consultant was the one who did it. To reiterate what Representative McLaughlin said, ISO is performing a study right now. It's not even finished. It won't be finished until the end of the year. So we're jumping the gun with this. If we want to pass it as a goal, that would be great. But that means we have to take Section 3 out, because Section 3 takes it from being a plan and a goal to making it mandatory.
Exactly. I'm sure you can do that on the floor, Representative. I'm going to close the committee to comments now. We're going to vote. Lou, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Representative Bennett, yes.
First Vice Chair Phillips.
Yes.
Second Vice Chair O'Brien.
Aye.
Representative Carson.
Yes.
Representative Cortravin.
Yes.
Representative Fenton Fung.
Aye.
Representative Fogarty.
Yes.
Representative Handy.
Yes.
Representative Knight.
Yes.
Representative Mauzakowski.
Yes.
Representative McEntee.
Wholeheartedly, yes.
Representative McLaughlin.
No.
Representative Morgan.
No.
Representative Ranglin Vassal.
Yes.
Representative Speakman.
Yes.
Chairman, H5445 Sub A passes out of committee at a vote of 13 yay and 2 against.
Thank you, Lou. Okay, I'm going to make a suggestion that we hold all other bills for further study.
Second?
Second?
Chairman Bennett.
Yes.
First Vice Chair Phillips.
Yes.
Second Vice Chair O'Brien.
Aye.
Representative Carson.
Yes.
Representative Corcoran.
Yes.
Representative Fenton Fung.
Yes.
Representative Fogarty.
Yes.
Representative Handy.
Yes.
Representative Knight.
Yes.
Representative Mazakowski.
Yes.
Representative McEntee. Representative McEntee? Yep, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Representative McLaughlin.
Yes.
Representative Morgan.
Yes.
Representative Ranglin Vassal.
Yes.
Representative Speakman.
Yes.
Chairman, the motion passes 15-0.
Thank you. Okay, the first bill we're going to hear tonight is 5967 by Representative Bella Wilkinson. Representative, you with us?
I am, Mr. Chairman,
Oh, there you are.
back here.
I thought I was looking at the screen. Go ahead, Representative, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and members of the House Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. House Bill 5967 relates to waters and navigation, and it is the Ocean State Climate Adaptation Fund, otherwise known as OSCAR. This act would establish the Ocean State Climate Adaptation and Resilience Fund. The fund would enable cities, towns, and the state to apply for grants to fund projects that restore and improve the climate resilience of vulnerable coastal habitats, as well as river and stream floodplains, with priority to projects that improve community resilience and public safety. Ladies and gentlemen, the production, transport, and use of fossil fuels cause the release of carbon dioxide and methane, two greenhouse gases that trap the Earth's heat in the atmosphere, leading to climate change. The Ocean State Climate Adaptation and Resilience Fund would be funded by a 5-cent per barrel fee on petroleum products imported by ship into Rhode Island. And there are 42 gallons in a barrel. This fee equates to 1/10 of a cent per gallon of fuel. It's estimated that OSCAR would generate approximately $1,900,000 per year to fund important adaptation projects throughout the state with no impact to our state budget. OSCAR creates a dedicated source of funding that would provide grants directly to cities, towns, and state agencies for projects that adapt infrastructure on public lands to the impacts of climate change and protect or enhance natural systems and habitats to improve the resilience of these systems to rising seas with no matching fund requirements for grantees. And I want to emphasize that, no matching fund requirements for grantees, excuse me. It addresses current gaps in funding. It provides a match to help cities, towns, and the state leverage federal funds. Now, that's just a thumbnail sketch of what OSCAR does. I will tell you that this bill is supported by the Town of Warren, Bristol County Water Authority, Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, CRMC, the Narragansett Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve, oh boy, I'm not even going to try, let me see. Would you say that? In the mic, please.
Woonasquatucket.
Thank you. River Watershed Council. We don't have words like that in Brooklyn. Sorry, Representative. The Audubon Society of Rhode Island, the Nature Conservancy, and a letter from Mayor Frank Picozzi from the great city of Warwick. Thank you very, very much. I hope that this committee would look favorably upon House Bill 5967. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wilkinson. Any questions for Representative Wilkinson?
Over here.
Oh, Representative Fenton Fong.
Thank you. Chairman Wilkinson, thank you so much for putting this up. A question, do you have to also be applying for something with federal funds to use these grants, or can they be standalones as well? I'm a little unclear on that.
No, you don't have to use the federal funds. It's a way of leveraging the funds, but this would be a way for us to create a self-funding program.
Okay, I apologize. I was just confused by the introduction. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Carson.
And is it, who's the managing body of the funds when the funds are collected?
I believe that would be the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we're going to go to our first witness, Topher Hamlet from Save the Bay. Topher, you there?
Yes, sir.
Floor is yours. Try to be brief, on point, and limit yourself to 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I just want to say a minute ago, this committee just voted out the Act on Climate bill, which is a historic bill that sets enforceable greenhouse gas reduction goals. So thank you for that. That's a great bill. And now you are turning your attention to the other critical piece of climate change strategy, which is helping Rhode Island communities adapt to climate change impacts. So I'm here to offer Save the Bay strong support for the Oscar bill. And thank Representative Bella Wilkinson and her co-sponsors for introducing the bill. As you all know, the impacts from climate change are being felt in all of your districts and will only become more severe as time goes on. And these impacts, as the sponsor said, include rising seas, but also coastal erosion, increased storm intensity, more frequent and heavy rain events, and flooding. In coastal communities, these rising seas are taking their toll. Our salt marshes, which are really the nurseries of life in the bay and on the coast, are drowning in place, and our coastal beaches and parks are eroding from more frequent and intense storms. But inland communities also are being affected by more frequent and intense flooding events, and I think you all remember the floods of 2010. In addition to the ecological damage that climate change is impacting infrastructure, public health and welfare, and our economic well-being. So the sooner we help our natural environment and our infrastructure adapt to these changes, the better. And the longer we delay, the more costly it will become. When we talk about adaptation projects, this is for your edification, we're talking about resizing or replacing culverts to reduce the risk of flooding, regrading, revegetating, and stabilizing eroding stream banks and rivers and shorelines along the coast, acquisition of land to allow coastal wetlands to move inland as seas rise, replacing pavement with plants and soils that will help control erosion, and removing, relocating, and redesigning infrastructure. Currently, there is no dedicated, reliable source of funding for cities and towns to plan, design, or implement projects, and that's where Oscar comes in. The representative explained the funding source. I do want to reiterate that it is a grant program that will actually leverage significant federal dollars. It can match federal dollars with a new administration in Washington and with our congressional delegation, which is the best in the country on these issues. There is no better time to establish a self-generating fund to leverage federal dollars. So we strongly support this bill and we urge passage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Topher. Any questions for Mr. Hamlet? Topher, thank you. Have a safe night. Be healthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Our next witness is J. Timmons Roberts. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good evening. How you doing? This is Representative Bennett from the House Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Try to be on point, try to be brief, and try to be within 2 minutes. Thank you.
Sure thing, Chair Bennett, and good evening to the whole committee. My name is Timmons Roberts. I'm a resident of Providence. I've been here 12 years. I work at Brown. I run something called the Climate and Development Lab, but I'm speaking as an individual. So I've been working on climate change for 30 years, and when I got here, I was aware that the state was kind of behind on adapting to climate change and resilience efforts. And so we did some research that year and in the years that followed, looking at the state's vulnerability and our options for adaptation action. All of those are the kind of things that this Oscar would be able to pay for, the listings of the kind of projects that are described, dealing with infrastructure that's going to be hammered by sea level rise and river flooding and on, heat waves and so on. But in 2010, we passed something called the Climate Risk Reduction Act, which created a commission to study these issues. I've been serving on the Science and Technology Advisory Board of the EC4. The need for this kind of funding is great. And this is the right way to raise this kind of money. It should be raised on fossil fuels, which are the direct cause of the warming of our planet, the rising of our seas as the oceans rise and as the climate gets worse and worse. So this is going to help cities and towns. This is going to help the state with doing these projects. I would just say the 5 cents a barrel seems incredibly low to me. By rights, it should be far higher than that. But if you have to start somewhere, this is somewhere to start. The 1.9 million that's expected to raise, again, is far too low. That the state, needs probably billions of dollars to adapt to the climate changes that are coming. So I would strongly support this bill, and I encourage your action on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Timmons. Any questions for Timmons? Seeing none, thank you very much, Timmons. You have a great night. Be safe over the weekend. Stay healthy. Our next witness is Luke Murray from my city of Warwick on behalf of the mayor. Luke.
Thank you. Yes.
Go right ahead. The floor is yours. Be brief and limit yourself to 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Bennett and honorable members of the committee. My name is Luke Murray. I'm a city planner and special project manager for the city of Warwick, and I'm testifying on behalf of Mayor Frank Picozzi, who wanted me to express his strong support of House Bill 5967. As you know, Warwick is uniquely situated with over 39 miles of coastline, nearly 3 miles of Patuxent River, and a variety of lakes, ponds, brooks, and streams. While all these sensitive environmental features are enormous assets to our community and bring forth a wealth of economic benefits to all Rhode Islanders, it means that the city's infrastructure is particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change. Our community understands that we are at a critical juncture in the fight against climate change. We have been proactive in moving our community to adopt resiliency measures that will protect our riverine corridors, coastal buffers, and critical infrastructure. For example, the city has made critical upgrades to our sewer pumping stations and critical facilities to protect against the floods like we saw in 2010. We continue to work with our partners at DEM, CRMC, Save the Bay, Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, and the Patuxent River Authority to improve stormwater quality, reduce coastal erosion, combat flooding, and protect our vulnerable businesses and resident population. For the past 2 years, the city's been working with the Oakland Beach Association to address severe coastal flooding and erosion along vulnerable coastlines situated along Brushneck Cove. And we've managed to use CRMC Shoreline Adaptation Grant to leverage more than $400,000 from RIDEM, as well as our partners from the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. And while we appreciate all the support that these state and local partners have provided, we need to do much more. To do so, we need a permanent and stable source of funding available to adequately tackle all of the challenges we face ahead. Rhode Islanders have done their part once again by approving the green bonds, and it's time for our partners from the petroleum industry to do theirs in helping Rhode Islanders fund resiliency efforts by allocating 1/10 of a cent of each gallon of fuel to this worthy effort. I appreciate the time and consideration of this bill and hope you will advance this bill to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Any questions for Luke? Yes, Representative McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, in reference to Warwick. I just like to give some consideration in reference to, you mentioned storm drains. Along with climate change, everything else, I basically think we need to look at the infrastructure of every city and town in reference to their storm drains. Most of them are antiquated throughout the state of Rhode Island, okay? And that too presents a major problem. Has this been taken into consideration in Warwick? Or
it is, and
where are you at?
Yes, sir. It's something we are looking at. Hardening of infrastructure is part of resiliency, and it's not just about coastal revetments and buffers or riverine corridors. We work with as much as as many know, we have our own sewer authority. Sewer is something that needs to be hardened. water assets, water lines that are vulnerable along coastlines. Those need to be hardened, and drains. And actually, a part of that project that I mentioned, we're going to be repiping a lot of those drains because they're what they call surcharging into the roadway. So, to your point, yes, it is something we are looking at, something that all communities need to look at. And this particular bill will provide the funding for those projects that we need to get done.
I want to thank you for your comments. I believe all this has to be incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. You have a safe weekend. Okay, that ends the verbal testimony. I just want to say on the written testimony, if you wish to read it, you're going to go to the General Assembly's homepage. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little square box and go under Documents, Committee Documents, go under Environment, and you will find our testimony. Everybody is in favor of this bill. There's no opposition. The Rhode Island League in Cities and Towns has concerns. The Audubon Society of Rhode Island, Kate Machad, Warren Town Manager, Nature Conservancy, Woonasquatucket Watershed Council, David Bouchard, Jordan Goyette, DEM, Frank Picozzi, Mayor of Warwick, Grow Smart, Tony Maratini, Acadia Center, and Bristol County Water Authority are all in favor of this bill. Say it again. Oh, sorry, there's another page, and there is people that are against it. Rhode Island Business Coalition is opposed. CLF is 4, Save the Bay is 4, and David Allard is opposed. I'm sorry, I didn't know I had another page. That concludes the hearing for Bill 5967. Thank you, Representative Wilkinson, fellow Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
I didn't know it was 2 pages. Oh. Okay, the next bill we're going to hear is 5919 by Representative Carson. It's a bill on Green Buildings Act. Representative Carson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee members. So this is an update to the Green Buildings Act. And I'll just refresh your memory if you're not familiar. All major facility projects of a public school district where the project receives any funding from the state shall be designed and constructed to at least the lead for neighborhood development and sites. Those are the terms as provided here in Certified Standard or the Northeast Collaborative for High Performance Schools protocol. So this is just an update the statute, removing, there was at one point in time, the state was going to do some prototype projects, but those didn't happen. So this is just putting it into statute and taking that section of the law out. And I would just like to share with you the advantages to having a LEED certified building. And the benefits of LEED certified construction is that there's reduced energy and water usage, lower operating costs, less construction waste, reduced liability, more durable buildings, supports the local economy, greater resale value, improved indoor air quality, increased employee productivity, and better public image. So this is really about making state buildings, bringing them up when we're going to invest money to make sure we invest it in the greenest way possible. And this is perfect. When we have the Act on Climate, could be one of the first tools that we use to help reducing the state's carbon footprint, and we could show ourselves as an example to the rest of the building community. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions for Representative Carson? Yes, Vice Chair Phillips.
Representative Carson, I like the bill. I just have an easy question, I hope. Is this just for new projects, or is this for any major renovations or updates on buildings also?
I think, well, that's a good question. I think we have Kenneth Filarski. He should be one of the,
Okay.
let's ask him that. 'cause
I'll
I just
hold
want to
on
make
until
sure
we
he's
see
the
Mr.
expert
Filarski,
from
yes.
the Green
Very good.
Buildings Advisory Committee, so let's ask him that.
Very good. Thank you, Rep. Corcoran.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Yes, Representative McLaughlin. Question.
Yes, a question for the sponsor of the bill. Do they actually have a projected cost estimate?
Well, it would be different for every building, so there's not a cost because that would come in. And when you build to LEED certified standards, if you implement that right at the beginning of the
In
planning,
reference to the certified standards.
you have savings.
In reference to the certified standards for the buildings, do they have a projected cost?
I think it would differ from building to building.
And I agree with you
Yes,
totally.
so I don't have a percentage to tell you.
All right, thank you.
And then I think you'd see savings in the energy cost during the lifetime of the building too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, we're going to go to our first witness, Kenneth Filarski. He's an architect. It says Filarski Architecture. Mr. Filarski, you there?
I am.
Yes. Try to be brief and under 2 minutes. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to you and members of the House Environment and Natural Resources Committee. This is a simple and straightforward amendment. Rhode Island is rich in history. In 2009, it passed the Green Buildings Act, where Rhode Island was the first state to incorporate LEED into public law. In 2017, with the amendments to the Green Buildings Act, Rhode Island adopted LEED for neighborhood development and sites into public law. Again, that was historic. The 4 pilot projects that Representative and Sponsor Corcoran referred to were unfortunately not done. However, and I know there's a letter that speaks to this, but in actuality, there's no need for 4 pilot projects because of the fact that it's tried and proven. There are over 160 projects that were done by EPA in a study which shows that these guiding frameworks save 15 to 80% of initial capital cost. The General Services Administration has mandated that sites be included in all their projects, and the General Services Administration is the largest manager of property in the country. And then when LEED and the Northeast CHIPS were adopted in 2009, there was no need or call for 4 pilot projects or any pilot project at that time, and they were less proven than sites in LEED for neighborhood development. What LEED and neighborhood development and sites do is they're actually, as Representative Corcoran said, they're actually a complement and a good supplement, and they're a guiding framework of how to achieve the objectives that are in some of the legislation that was discussed tonight, including OSCR and Act on Climate. Rhode Island has made history. In my submittal, there are a number of links that provide far more greater detail and additional I would say strength to my testimony. So I urge the committee to move this out of committee with a positive vote and onto the floor so that the Green Buildings Act can become whole and address public buildings, public structures, and public real property. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Filarski. Any questions for Mr. Filarski? Representative Fenton Fung.
Hi, Ken. Thanks so much for your testimony here and all your great work, especially in Cranston. I have a question. All the schools that have been designed lately, as we're talking about the new school infrastructure bonds, are they all LED certified, and would they fall under this?
They already do, in the sense that, and here's one of the things, there's a great enforcement provision in here, and this is why enforcement is needed on a lot of these things. Schools have to be designed according to Northeast CHIPS, which is a collaborative and very parallel high performance green building standard to LEED. And so in order to get school construction funding, they have to be provided and adhere to Northeast CHIPS, which stands for the Northeast Collaborative for High Performance Schools. What could be done, and it's not mandatory because on a project to meet the Green Building Act's requirements, you could choose either LEED for neighborhood development, or sites. What would be a great addition to the school construction project, and actually it's been talked about, is to incorporate some of the site protocols that would deal with the lands and properties outside the school building.
I appreciate that. Is there any federal funding that you know of that will help some of the school departments and cities and towns help to meet these standards?
It depends on the particular program, but I've talked about these programs with Jeff Deal, the director and chief executive officer of the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, and the Infrastructure Bank and Jeff they're very highly creative in how they deal with funding. And what they've been able to do is they've been able to parcel out certain parts of a school construction project to fit their funding mandates and parameters, and so what there's and the low interest financing that you can get from the Infrastructure Bank is lower than most cities and towns can get by themselves with their own bond ratings. So there's a way to do that. And then you can also, again, depending upon the federal programs, you can leverage those dollars spent or borrowed to the programs that are available at the time. And I think there'll be a great deal of programs coming from the federal level that'll be available because climate change, resilience, and sustainability are large objective targets for them.
I appreciate that. I'll probably just reach out to you offline so I can try to make sure we get the best for Cranston. Thank you.
Please do.
Vice Chairman Phillips.
Good evening, Ken. Nice talking to you. How are you doing tonight?
Very good, Vice Chair. Yourself?
Very good, thank you. Did you hear my question to Representative Courtbrand?
I did, but I forgot it.
Okay, that's fine. We're all getting to that point. The question was, is this pertaining to only new construction buildings, or if schools or any other entity in the state is doing major renovations, would they have to be under this act?
Under the Green Buildings Act, I'm not a member of the Green Buildings Advisory Committee, and I'm in a way happy to that because I can have an independent voice and I can cajole them and push them around. But in the existing act, it deals with major projects, and major projects are defined as new construction over 5,000 square feet and renovations over 10,000 square feet. Now that pertains to LEED. What the Green Buildings Advisory Committee would need to do if LEED for neighborhood development sites were fully incorporated into the Green Buildings Act as they were to be in 2017, is that they would develop guidelines as to how those would apply. And as I referenced earlier, is that with the Green Buildings Act, you don't have to meet all the different high performance green building standard guidelines. You could pick and choose that. And also, government agencies have the ability to say, hey, look, we can't meet this for these various reasons, and they can be granted waivers.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Flosky, you have a good night and a safe weekend.
The same to you, Chair, and everyone on your committee and all the staff involved. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the verbal testimony. We do have written testimony. Christopher Armstrong is opposed to the bill. Jordan Guyette is for the bill. Acadia Center is for the bill. Brett Smiley is for the bill. U.S. Green Building Council is for the bill. And Mr. Flosky, you just heard, he has written testimony also. That concludes the hearing for 5919. Our next bill we'll be hearing is 5922 by Representative McNamara. It's a bill, an act on relating to aeronautics, Permanent Air Quality Monitoring Act, and compliance. I got a letter here from him. I got it on my phone. Sorry about the delay. I guess I don't have it on my phone. Well, anyways, this just deals with the airport and if I can find that letter. That's Scott. There we go. That's it, okay. Chairman McNamara would like to respectfully request that, oh, this is the amendment bill. This bill is on the Air Quality Act, and it's a... You sure can.
Thank you, Chairman. Just again, Rep. McNamara has had this legislation in for a number of years, and we've continued to have to keep on pushing the years out. Essentially, there's just concerns about air quality, particularly by nearby neighbors, air and water quality, actually both. And one of the sort of compromises was this legislation to have air quality monitoring stations around the airport. It has a sunset, and so this just kicks the sunset out an additional year. And I think it's again, a smart piece of legislation. I think 1 year is not enough, but I talked to Chairman McNamara about it, and he said that's the compromise at this point. So again, I urge everyone to support it.
Okay, well,
I could probably answer questions if people need it too.
Any questions for Representative Handy? Yes, Representative Carson.
So are we, right now, we're checking the air quality, or?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not like it's going to check every single chemical, but there's a list of things that it is looking to monitor, and it's paid for by the Rhode Island Airport Corporation.
Okay, and they are doing it, and this would just continue
Exactly.
them?
That's
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I got the letter from Chairman McNamara, and it says, I would like to respectfully request that you amend House Bill 5922 relating to this bill to reflect the Senate Bill 607 by Senator McCaffrey that extends the program to July 31st, 2024. There is no verbal testimony on this bill. But the written testimony, again, I want to tell you that it's on the homepage of the General Assembly under documents. Philip T. Ericole is for the bill. Rhode Island Airport Corporation is neutral. Michelle Comar is for the bill, and the Rhode Island Department of Health is for the bill. We have written testimony on all those. That concludes the hearing on 5922. The next bill we will hear is 5966 by our own Representative Handy. It's an act relating to public utility carriers, minimum energy and water efficiency standards. Representative Handy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'll be brief. This is a piece of the bill that we've had before the committee a number of times. Actually, the first version of the bill, I believe, actually was maybe passed out of corporations back maybe 14 years ago or something like that now. This essentially updates that standard. We haven't updated it since then. But it also adds in water efficiency. The original legislation really was about energy efficiency. Actually, a lot of the products under the old bill now are like nobody would use them anymore because they're actually we've moved past a lot of those. This adds new ones in. It updates a lot of the new standards. The objective with this bill always is to only include things that have a high sort of payback on them. So we're not talking about a product that people are paying way more than the value they're getting back. In fact, it's something that in some cases will pay for itself. It's actually cheaper than the original product and things like that, and they're all available on the market. It's being introduced in a number of other states. There's a few states that have already actually passed this, and actually Kai Selim also is going to be speaking after. She might actually know those specific states. I can't recall those off the top of my head, but it's one of these things where it's going to save literally millions of dollars for Rhode Islanders. In some cases, it's going to be in dribs and drabs, in small pieces, but when you add that up, all that money still is being retrenched into the economy. Again, it's also likely to support a lot of the local businesses. In the past, we've had support from like Taco because some of the products are among those that they specialize in as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Representative Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this the bill we did a couple of years back on the floor?
We did do it a couple of years ago. Whether or not it's the one you're thinking of, I don't know.
The one that provides for all the products and increased efficiencies.
Yeah, and it got to the floor, and it kept getting tabled because
exactly.
Yes.
Good bill.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we're going to go to a verbal testimony. Our first witness will be Kai Salem, Green Energy Consumer Alliance. Hi, Kai, you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Kai, Be brief and try to keep yourself under 2 minutes. Stay on point. The floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Chair. My name is Kai Salem. I'm the policy coordinator with Green Energy Consumers Alliance. We're a nonprofit that advocates for a transition to a low-carbon future. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on one of my favorite pieces of legislation. Energy-efficient appliance standards is the best piece of climate policy that you've never heard of. Today, you voted to pass an Act on Climate out of committee, and thank you so much. Thank you for supporting this landmark climate legislation. The next step will be finding ways to reduce emissions that save Rhode Islanders money. H5966 is just such a bill. It reduces emissions, cuts down on water waste, and saves money for Rhode Island residents and businesses. The bill raises the minimum level of efficiency required in 18 products sold in Rhode Island. Right now, for example, if you go into a store in Rhode Island looking to buy a faucet, you'll have a few different options. 2 of them might even be the exact same price. So you choose one at random. What you don't know is that one of those 2 faucets uses dramatically more water, which ends up costing you way more on your water bill. This is a consumer protection issue. And this bill would protect consumers by removing the worst performers in the market. If passed, this bill would lock in savings on electricity, natural gas, water, and utility bills. And these savings are nothing to laugh at. They are the emissions equivalent of taking over 2,000 cars off the road for a year every year, the water consumption of 6,000 households, or the electric consumption of 4,000 households. In dollar value, this will save $13 million collectively on utility bills every year. Imagine if we had $13 million extra in our state budget every year. Rhode Island can't afford not to pass these standards for yet another year. States across the country already have some or all of these standards. They include Washington, Colorado, California, Nevada, D.C., Vermont, and New York. Today, Massachusetts passed these standards in their House. These standards are now headed to the governor's desk. They passed with a veto-proof majority, so the standards will become law this year because they've also already passed the Senate. Maryland passed the Senate unanimously, and the New Jersey bill has passed out of committee in both chambers. None of the appliances are manufactured in Rhode Island. Passing these standards will benefit businesses. I'd like to particularly highlight one of our most special types of small businesses, restaurants. Restaurants have always operated on the margins, but this last year has been extraordinarily difficult for them. This bill has a number of products that specifically save money for restaurants, and I think passing this bill would be a great way to recognize how much restaurants are struggling right now and how we have the opportunity to help them reduce their emissions, their water usage, and save them money. In the past, industry lobbyists have tried to argue that these standards would create patchwork regulation, but because states in our region already have or are about to pass these standards, not passing them would make Rhode Island a dumping ground for inefficient products. They have argued that their industries already meet standards, so this legislation is unnecessary. Well, if that's the case, then they won't mind if we pass this legislation to ensure that we have energy-efficient products going forward. Over the last 4 years, we saw a president roll back appliance standards. We can't always rely on the federal government to take care of energy policy for us. Passing state-level appliances now will protect energy efficiency in the future. The last thing that I want to say is that Rep. Handy has been an incredible leader on appliance standards for years. We should have passed this bill long ago because it only delivers benefits for Rhode Islanders. Let's make up for lost time and deliver a win to Rep. Handy by passing this legislation as soon as possible. I'm happy to take questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kai. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much, Kai. You be safe and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Our next witness is Alec Bozenberg from the National Electric Manual. He's opposed to the bill. Alex, you there?
Yes.
Okay, Alex, be brief. Keep it under 2 minutes and stay on point. The floor is yours. Alex?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chair Bennett and honorable members of the committee. I am Alex Bozenberg, and I am the Director of Regulatory Affairs for the National Electrical Manufacturers Association. NEMA makes a wide variety of commercial, industrial, and residential electrical products, and one of those that I'll speak about today is lighting. The draft bill proposes to impose a sales ban on a large number of lamps or otherwise enact legislation that forces them all to become light-emitting diode or LED-based technology. These products are not federally regulated, primarily or fundamentally because it is a small category and there is not a noticeable amount, or I'll say worthwhile amount, of energy savings resident in that. Furthermore, as markets transform, there's even less energy opportunity to be realized. But these niche products therefore have very little interest in having a wide range or selection of LEDs made for them. It's not cost effective for manufacturers to develop the products. While there are some products available, again, it's not complete. And when a product does not have a new technology, an LED equivalent, that means that the fixture has to be thrown away. That's true for some of the niche product incandescent lamps, as well as for some of the tubular fluorescent lamps impacted by the bill. And those costs are not captured in the estimates. So saying that this bill just results in someone having to buy a different light bulb the next time they go to the store is an inaccurate expectation. So I also wanted to, again, state that this is written as a sales ban. The typical way of dealing with product obsolescence and upgrade to new standards is to have a manufacturing ban, thus something made before a date can be sold through and supplies depleted without causing any confusion or burden on retailers to have to pull product from shelves and be stuck with it. The stuck with it then usually brings the argument that, oh no, we'll become a dumping ground if we don't update to the standards of those around us. I would reiterate that as a niche category, that means it has low sales, so no one wants to take on a bunch of those knowing they don't move very fast. So I regard any arguments or beliefs as dumping ground as impractical in view of a small market. So we're concerned this will raise cost on residents in ways not explored, and as a result, if the committee is determined to pass this bill, we request that you strike the portions related to lighting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Representative Fenton Fung.
Well, it's a question for the witness, and I guess for Rep. Handy, too. Are you willing to take these out of that, just in light of what he said?
I mean, I don't want to go against the sort of preference of the committee in terms of how we're supposed to do things, but I'd actually object to some of the perspective, because I think there are available products in that sense. But maybe you have a question more for him, and then
I appreciate it. This is so out of my wheelhouse, and I'm trying to understand where we're going on it. Yeah. So I appreciate his perspective, and I just didn't know if there was a real reason or didn't know the background of it in the past. So I appreciate you educating us here, my friend. But I just, again, trying to figure out if this is kind of a weird niche thing, then I'd be happy to. I
think it originally was. I think that's again. I'm trying to remember because it's a particular product, and I'm trying to remember. But I believe actually what's happened is a lot of essentially manufacturers sort of pushed toward that niche area because they knew they couldn't do it in these other categories, and so I feel like that's my understanding of it. So there are a lot of alternatives for some of them. It really depends, but. All
right, I'll probably just reach out offline to both of you and try to figure that out. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Alex. I appreciate your testimony. We're going to go to our next witness, Katie Riley, Consumer Technology. She's opposed. Katie, you there?
I am, Chairman Bennett. Thank you.
Okay, Katie, I'm going to ask you to stay brief, on point, in under 2 minutes. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you, Chairman Bennett and honorable members of the House Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. My name is Katie Riley, and I work for the Consumer Technology Association, or CTA. Our members are the world's leading innovators, from startups to global brands that you're probably using today for this hearing, helping support more than 18 million American jobs. We represent the consumer electronic device manufacturers and brand owners. For the past 15 years, CTA and our members have worked aggressively on energy efficiency issues for consumer electronics. We've been able to quantify through peer-reviewed studies that while the number of electronic devices in U.S. homes has increased 21% since 2010, these devices now account for 25% less residential energy consumption over that same time period. This landmark achievement is due to our industry's innovations and investments. With that context in mind, there are two areas of concern with House Bill 5966. First, we do not support the authority granted to the Office of Energy Resources to adopt Rhode Island regulations to establish minimum energy efficiency standards for any product, including consumer electronics. Consumer tech products are sold in a U.S. or North American market, not state by state. So the potential here for conflicting standards among states will result in the potential for consumer tech products that are used every day by residents in Rhode Island to potentially be removed from shelves. Our second concern relates to the requirement for computers and monitors sold in Rhode Island to meet the California Energy Commission standards. As I just mentioned, computers and monitors are sold on the U.S. North American market. The California standard is the most stringent standard. Therefore, all of the computers and monitors currently available in Rhode Island are already compliant with the California standard. So Rhode Island would not actually be increasing energy efficiency savings for consumers by adopting a standard that products are already compliant with. There are no products to remove from the market, like someone else mentioned. They're all compliant. We've seen no evidence to the contrary. So with all due respect, the savings claim for this product category won't happen because the products are already for sale in Rhode Island. But what it will do is it will increase compliance costs for CTA's members, which is why we object to the inclusion of the standards for these products. And it will utilize state resources that could be better directed elsewhere, given there's no actual increase in energy efficiency savings for this category. Again, we are firmly committed to energy efficiency across our industry, but we just don't feel that House Bill 5966 is the right path forward. So thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Katie. Any questions? Seeing none, Katie, you have a safe night. Be healthy. Excuse me. Our next witness is Jacob Cassidy, the Association of Home something. He's opposed to the bill. Jacob.
Yes,
Jacob,
sir,
you there?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, be brief, under 2 minutes. Go right ahead.
You got it. I've heard it. I've heard it a few times tonight. Good evening,
I got to be fair to everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jacob Cassidy. I am the Director of Government Relations at the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. AHAM represents over 150 companies throughout the country and some international. And this group of manufacturers include folks that produce major portable and floor care appliances, as well as their suppliers. Really, overall, about 95% of all appliances shipped for sale in the U.S. are produced by AHAM members. I provided my full testimony in advance. Really, HB 5966, where AHAM is opposed to it, as this bill will restrict the availability of air cleaners and purifiers in Rhode Island. This would effectively remove about 60% through these standards. 60% of air cleaners would be taken off the shelves. That's because it's using an Energy Star standard to judge whether or not an air cleaner should be sold. Energy Star was never intended to be a standard setting. It is a label designating program to tell consumers which product is more efficient than other products. To include air cleaners and purifiers at this time is also, quite frankly, ill-advised. Folks are spending more time inside. They're searching to find ways to clean their air, the air they breathe, due to, take those fine particulates out as we all spend more time indoors due to the pandemic. So folks with asthma, allergies, and other health risks, they are buying these products. Removing these from the shelves would ultimately hurt lower-income residents. This is not something that has been implemented in other states. While energy efficiency bills are out there, air cleaners, purifiers have not been restricted from sale. I'm going to stop there. This is a human health thing, not a energy efficiency thing, and I really hope this committee considers that when you ultimately decide what to do with this bill.
Thank you, Jacob.
Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Jacob? Seeing none, thank you, Jacob. You have a good night. Be safe and stay healthy. That concludes a verbal testimony on 5966. Written testimony, National Electric Manufacturers Association is opposed. Consumer Technology Association is opposed. Association of Home Appliances and Manufacturers is opposed. Nature Conservancy is for. Audubon Society, 4. Jordan Goyette, 4. Consumer Reports, 4. American Council for Energy and Efficient Economy is for the bill. Appliance Standard Awareness Project is for the bill. Acadia Center is for the bill. National Grid is for the bill. Consumer Federation of America is for the bill. Pool and Hot Tub Alliance is for the bill. Sorry, my fingers don't want to work. CLF, Conservation Law Foundation, is for the bill. And Green Energy Consumer Alliance is for the bill. That concludes the hearing for 5966. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Great.